They called them the Impossible Twins. 12 nannies had quit in 6 months, some in tears, some in fury, and one who left without even collecting her last paycheck. No one lasted more than 5 days with them. And when the general himself issued a notice seeking anyone brave enough to try, people across the base laughed. But everything changed the day a quiet, tired single dad stood at the general's gate, holding a lunchbox in one hand and a folded American flag in the other. He didn't come for a job. He came for a miracle. And no one, not even the general, knew that the twins were about to meet the only man capable of breaking their walls. Because he was a broken man himself. Rain hammered the windshield as Daniel Hayes pulled up to Fort Brigham, the wipers fighting a losing battle against the storm. His daughter, little Emma, slept in the back seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit the way she used to cling to her mother's hand. Daniel brushed the thought away before the ache could settle too deeply. He had learned, in the 2 years since the accident, that grief arrives fast and quietly, like an ambush. He wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to be asking for work again. Not after everything he had sacrificed. But his last job at the auto shop had dried up, and the hospital bills were rising again. Emma's asthma medication had gone up in price. Food had gotten tighter. And last night, when he found himself skipping dinner so Emma could have seconds, he knew something had to change. So he answered the listing. The listing everyone else was joking about. General Marcus Steele, commanding officer of Fort Brigham, seeks immediate child care assistance for 7-year-old twin daughters. High pay. High expectations. Military experience preferred. People had laughed. Vet forums had memes about it. But Daniel wasn't laughing. He needed the money. He needed stability for Emma. And he needed something, anything, that would let him keep fighting. The guard at the gate inspected his ID. When he saw Staff Sergeant Hayes, his posture straightened. "You're really answering that notice?" he asked with a half-grimace. Daniel nodded. "If the position's still open." "Open? Sir, people run from that house like it's haunted." The guard lowered his voice. "Those girls, they're not normal." Daniel forced a small smile. "Neither am I." The guard waved him in. The general's house sat on a quiet hill overlooking the training fields. Massive. Beautiful. Immaculate. And yet, the lights inside flickered with a strange loneliness. As Daniel carried Emma, still sleeping, to the porch, the front door opened. General Marcus Steele stood there. Tall. Stern. A jaw carved from stone. The kind of man whose medals filled an entire row on his uniform. But his eyes looked exhausted. "You're Hayes." It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." "You brought your daughter." "Yes, sir." "I don't have childcare at the moment." The general studied Emma's small hand curled on Daniel's shoulder. Something flickered across his face, something too quick and too fragile for a man like him. Then he stepped aside. "Come in." Inside was chaos disguised as a home. Toys in perfectly neat piles, as if someone tried and failed repeatedly to impose order. On the couch, 2 identical girls, dark-haired, bright-eyed twins, glared at Daniel with the suspicion and hostility of cornered wolves. Ava and Lily Steele. The impossible ones. Daniel knelt slowly, putting Emma down on the rug as she rubbed her eyes awake. The twins stared. Emma stared back. Silence crackled. Then Ava whispered to Lily, loud enough for Daniel to hear. "He's not lasting more than 2 days." Lily nodded. "I bet 1. Daniel didn't flinch. "Hi," he said gently. "I'm Daniel. And this is Emma. We come as a team." The twins' eyes narrowed, 2 pairs of matching storm clouds. But Daniel knew that look. He had seen it in soldiers who'd lost friends. In children who'd lost parents. In the mirror, every morning. The general cleared his throat. "Mr. Hayes, 12 nannies quit. I'm warning you up front. If you want to turn around, I won't hold it against you." Daniel looked at the twins again. Their defiance wasn't normal mischief. It was armor. "I don't quit on kids." Daniel said softly. Something in the room shifted. But the twins didn't soften. Ava crossed her arms. We'll see. Lily added. You all say that at first. Emma stood next to her dad shyly, clutching his pant leg. The twins' eyes flicked to her, and for a moment, their expressions changed. Not kindness, not exactly, but curiosity. A crack in the wall. Daniel noticed. He didn't comment. Walls shouldn't be kicked down. They should be invited open. The first test came within minutes. A crash. A scream. The sound of glass. The twins had knocked over a vase, a deliberate test, and were watching Daniel's reaction with predatory alertness. The general looked ready to explode. But Daniel knelt, picked up the first shard carefully, and said calmly, Accidents happen. But we clean up our own messes. He handed the twins a small brush and a dustpan. Ava blinked. You're making us clean it? Yes. Lily frowned. But every other nanny cleaned it for you? Daniel said softly. They nodded. Well, I'm not every other nanny. The twins froze. Something new flickered in their eyes. Respect? Recognition? Hope? They didn't know yet. Neither did Daniel. But Emma walked over and helped them sweep. The twins glanced at her again, still curious, still guarded, but this time, they accepted her help. The general stood silently behind them, arms crossed, studying Daniel with something like disbelief. When the floor was clean, Daniel stood. The storm outside softened. Inside, the tension eased with it. The general cleared his throat. Hayes, I have one question. Yes, sir? Why are you really here? Daniel swallowed. He hadn't meant to reveal this so soon. But maybe honesty was the only way to open this house. I'm here, he said quietly, because I promised my wife before she died that I would give our daughter a life filled with gentleness, not struggle. The room went still. Ava and Lily looked at him, really looked, maybe for the first time. The general lowered his eyes. And for the first time since entering the house, Daniel felt seen. Morning light crept into the Steele household, revealing a tension that had settled like fog overnight. Daniel woke early, made breakfast for Emma, and found himself preparing 2 extra plates, instinctively, before realizing the twins were already awake, sitting silently at the table. They weren't misbehaving. They weren't throwing things. They weren't shouting. They were waiting. A test? An invitation? He couldn't tell. Good morning, Daniel said softly, placing pancakes in front of them. Ava stared at the plate as if it were a puzzle. Lily narrowed her eyes. We don't eat pancakes, Lily said. Daniel nodded. Okay. He took the plates back. The twins frowned in confusion. What are you doing? Ava asked. You said you don't eat them. I believe you. The twins exchanged glances, thrown off balance. No one believes us, Lily muttered. Daniel shrugged. Everyone deserves to be believed the first time. For the first time, something vulnerable rippled across their faces, as if someone had opened a window in a locked room. Just then, the general entered. His uniform was sharp, but his eyes looked heavy, as though he'd barely slept. How are they? He whispered to Daniel. Daniel glanced at the twins. Guarded. But good kids. The general sighed. They weren't like this before their mother died. She was the glue. I've been deployed so often. I know, Daniel said gently. Kids don't act out for no reason. When Daniel turned back, he saw the twins watching him with a mixture of suspicion and longing. Not for pancakes. For something much deeper. Connection. The general left for the base shortly after, leaving Daniel alone with 3 girls who were, together, more unpredictable than a battlefield. It didn't take long for the next challenge. Follow us, Ava said suddenly. Where to? Daniel asked. You'll see. Lily smirked. If you're brave. He followed them through the hallway, past framed medals and photos, until they stopped at a closed door. Ava's hand hovered on the knob. No one goes in here, she whispered. Then she looked up at Daniel with a searching, painful intensity. Do you want to? The air changed. This wasn't rebellion. This wasn't mischief. This was grief. Yes, Daniel said softly. But only if you want me to. They opened the door. Inside was a beautiful, dust-covered room. Their mother's art studio. Paints, brushes, unfinished canvases. A faint, lingering scent of lavender. Emma walked in beside Daniel, quiet, respectful, sensing the sacredness of the space. We come here when we miss her, Lily whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. And what do you do when it hurts too much? Ava looked down. We break things, Lily whispered. We scare people away. Daniel stepped between them, lowering himself to their level. I used to do the same, he said. The twins looked up sharply. When my wife died, I shut everyone out. I snapped. I yelled. I pushed people away because it felt safer than being left again. He took a slow breath. Pain makes us do impossible things. But love makes the impossible things worth trying. The twins stared at him. Emma slipped her small hand into Lily's. Lily didn't pull away. Ava blinked back tears she refused to let fall. Then, quietly, trembling, she whispered, Are you going to leave too? Daniel felt the question hit him like a blast. No, he said. I don't leave kids. I don't leave families. Not anymore. A long silence. Then Ava stepped forward and hugged him. A sudden, desperate, aching hug, small arms clinging to him with the force of a child who had held on for too long and finally found a safe place to collapse. Lily followed, hugging him from the other side. Emma wrapped her arms around all of them, as if trying to stitch together the broken pieces. And for the first time since their mother died, the Steele household felt warm. When the general returned hours later, he froze in the doorway, stunned to see the twins painting with Emma, laughing, talking, alive. Ava ran to him, thrusting forward a colorful canvas. Daddy, look! Daniel taught us how to paint like Mommy! The general's eyes glistened, not with the rigid pride of a commanding officer, but with the fragile gratitude of a father who had been drowning quietly for years. He looked at Daniel. You did the impossible. Daniel shook his head softly. No. They did. And as the twins pulled Daniel and Emma back toward the studio, giggling and arguing over paint colors, the general finally understood. Sometimes the strongest soldiers aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who learn to rebuild, together.